Our next presenter is a 10-year burner, an Antarctic explorer, a ranger, a Black Rock khaki, a manager of chaos, and we'll be talking about consent issues in the Burnerverse. Lavendyr?
I'm talking about a topic that's maybe a little bit heavier than what we're normally used to talking about in polite conversation. Nonetheless, it's still completely relevant. The deeper I go into the Burning Man world and the further I get into rangerdom, the more I see kind of the man behind the curtain and maybe the darker side of the burn, which has led me to dealing with consent issues and what happens when consent is not gained, and people end up having things done to them which they're not cool with. And I find this to be a really interesting phenomenon in terms of all the other ways in which our Burning Man principles guide us on personal respect and responsibility, and expression and acceptance of other people. Yet we're still kind of barbaric in how we negotiate sex, photography, other sorts of things that involve other people. We tend to take when we live in a gifting society, like in a gifting culture. And I find this to be really interesting. And in terms of the Burnerverse in general, the rest of our community is kind of catching up to the fact that we need to do something about this. And yesterday was not early enough. So there's a lot of conversations happening, not just in our region, but across the country and around the world about how do we change the conversation around consent? How do we talk to people about negotiating sex? How do we gift people substances and make sure they understand that they're being gifted them and not just dumping people, and how do we get video and photography and not just take them? So there's a lot of issues around consent that are going on, and I attended a really super interesting workshop at the GLC that could have gone on for a long time, and it's about consent. I wanted to throw out some statistics just so you guys know that this is a for real thing. 1 in 4 women in Colorado have been raped, and 1 in 17 males are raped. 40% of women in Colorado aged 18 and older have experienced sexual violence outside of rape. So these are non-consensual touching and things like that. So when you add those statistics together, it comes to be 3 out of 4 women in Colorado have had a non-consensual incident happen to them. That's like way too high. If you look at the women in here, that means more of us have had shitty things happen to us than not. And that's, still happening within Burning Man stuff. As a khaki, I get to deal with women who are raped on a daily basis. It sucks. In Colorado, I have women coming up to me now on almost every other week telling me about something that happened at one of our events. So this is happening locally, it's happening to us, and I don't think that's really acceptable, and I think that we're all capable of changing this. So the workshop I attended was really talking about how do we address this? We have these 10 principles, maybe we can make the 11th principle consent, which is what the North Carolina Burn has done, and they've really promoted that into Burning Man culture, and other communities have picked it up as well. And they've talked about the fact that really the key issue is education. We've all come from somewhere, and not too many of us have been born into the burner community, although some of us had. So we've all come from different parts of the world, different communities, different mores, things like that. And that, in some communities, it might be okay to just be obnoxious and be grabby or be pushy or not ask for consent. But so people need to be educated to the point that that's not the way it is. When we became burners, we understood that leave no trace was a thing, and we all do it. Like, we do it voraciously at all of our parties and all our events. We take care of our shit. We can engage in conversations with each other that engender respect, and really empower people, that when people say yes to your sexual advances, that they're fully on board. It's fuck yes, or it's no. And there's so many people that want to have it be fuck yes, that you don't have to go very far to find that yes. So they just keep engaging in those conversations. So other things too that come up a lot in our community is that consent can't really be given if someone's intoxicated or not their thinking. So, I think this ends up being something that comes up more and more in our community, because a lot of our events involve people not being necessarily sober. And so, you need to engage in those conversations before people become non-sober, or delay having the conversation until people are sober, like hang out the next day, meet up beforehand, but don't, take advantage of people in a state where they can't actually think about what's going on and give those clear answers. So Anyway, so what we're working on is actually instituting an educational conversation to bring the community up to speed on things before we go straight to punitive sort of thing. We have had a few examples in our community where we've had to ban people from events because they didn't seem quite to get it. And now that they're coming up more and more, we don't want to have to go straight to that. We want to give everybody a chance to understand this is how we're going to engage with each other from now on, and it's going to be respectful. And then if you fall outside of those lines, then we'll start to talk about making agreements, or maybe you're not welcome in our community anymore. So, yes. Oh, I'm done. Okay. So anyway, if you guys have more questions or need to talk to us about what's going on, or if you have something that you would like help in talking about, or would like a resource to how to recover from something that's maybe happened to you, I have some information and also collecting information for you. So thank you guys so much.